Hey there, I'm Aaron. In this short video, I'm going to take an image of a handsome bulldog here, and I'm going to expand it to a full screen size image of 1920 by 1080 pixels. I'm going to finish off the background, and then we're probably going to isolate this gentleman from the rest of the image and put him in a different scene altogether. So sounds like a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of fun, and let's go ahead and do it. So the first thing I need to do is get our canvas size to the 1920 by 1080 pixels. So I'm going to do that by changing the height here in image size so that it changes the image to 1080 by 1080 pixels square. So we've got our height now that we wanted, and now I'm going to go in to the canvas size and change it to 1920 by 1080. Now I could have, of course, gone in here to canvas size at the beginning and changed it to 1920 by 1080, since we did already have the height in the image, but it would have cut off some of the image at the top and the bottom. So here we go. I have found that the easiest way to, well, I mean, anything with Firefly is easy, but a very successful way to do things is to highlight or select an area like so, to give it a bit of a bleed edge around it, and then we use this button here that's going to invert the selection. So rather than the pixels that we had highlighted and selected, now it's selecting and now it's choosing everything else. If we hadn't done that, it would regenerate the dog, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for it to generate fill for the background. So let's go ahead and do this without giving it any sort of a prompt. So that what it's going to do is look at the pixels in the rest of the image for information on how to fill out those blank sections for us based on those pixels. So this should give us a nice seamless background, and it does. I would call this a 100% success. Back of the body is finished off nicely. Flowers from here to here are perfect, and the lighting is natural. Let's have a look at the other variations. Number 2, number 3. I would say here number 2, very sort of angular, almost looks cut off there, but number 1 or number 3 both look great. In the end, I'm going to go with number 3 here. So there we go. Already we have a full screen image with a completed background that looks very, very natural. You wouldn't know that that wasn't the original image. So that's great. I'm going to now, let's see if we can put him in instead of somebody's backyard. Let us select him as the subject. So Photoshop is going to highlight around him. We're going to do the same thing again and use that invert selection so that now it's selecting everything other than our subject. And generate fill, but here I'm going to say that it's going to be in a park with trees in the background. And let's see what it comes up with. So, all kinds of different possibilities for how it's going to put this guy in a park. Will there be a lot of people around? I kind of hope not. The AI doesn't seem to do a fantastic job with crowds of people. So here we go. Ooh, very natural looking. Nice and bright, open. So that looks very nice and natural. Again, I don't think that you could really tell that that wasn't the original scene. Number 2, that also looks very nice. And number 3, there's something about this that doesn't look quite as natural. I would say that between 1 and 2, number 2 gives it more of a park feel. So that was really easy. Why don't we go ahead and customize this a little bit more? There's sort of visually an empty area over here. Why don't we go ahead and say that there is a park bench in the distance, or we'll say in the background, because I want to see whether or not Firefly AI is going to be intelligent enough to not only place a park bench there, but I want to see whether or not it's going to have that Gaussian blur that the rest of the background does. So that failed. Let's have a look and possibly find out why. I'm going to flatten the image so that both of those layers are now being selected. Let's try this again. I have a feeling that that was what was causing it to give it that little error, and maybe that's going to solve the problem for you sometime in the future. I run into that a couple of times, and this is the solution. So there we go. Park bench in the background, and it really does just fade in there. I think that that looks pretty great. Now here is a challenge. I'm going to highlight an area here, and I'm going to ask it to put in a frisbee. I'm going to say up front, this may or may not be successful because that is a very specific object that is going to put in the foreground, and it seems like it's more difficult for the AI to manage the lighting effects of a foreground image that it has put into a scene. So here really that isn't too bad. I think what I'm referring to is how the light looks like it's coming down here and hitting off the back, whereas here the light is coming from this side. So because of that, it just looks kind of plopped there. Let's check out our other versions. That one actually isn't too bad. And number 3, if I were going to keep one in the image, I would probably say that one. I don't know that I would though, to be honest with you. I think that looks pretty nice. Maybe why don't we just try, why don't we give him a ball? Just like that. We'll say, give this dog a ball. I didn't mention, by the way, that this dog was AI generated in Leonardo.ai, and I think that it's pretty spectacular in terms of the texture on the hair and the fine details, just incredible. So there we go. Well, it is a ball. It's a very oversized golf ball, another golf ball, and there is a very tiny soccer ball. So we'll say that he has a little miniature soccer ball there for him, perfect size for our English bulldog. And in the end, I think that we were successful. In fact, why don't we go ahead, and we're so pleased with this that we're going to go ahead and export this as a PNG. And I'll just quickly save this to my downloads, and we'll go ahead and put him on the desktop background, and let's see. There he is in all of his glory with his little tiny soccer ball on my screen. Park bench in the background. That's a beautiful image, folks. I hope that you enjoyed that, and I will see you the next time.